Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday wrap-up. I am Bo, here with my guys, Mr. Yu and Herb. Just like you see us every Wednesday morning, grab a cup of coffee. We're going to talk about everything across all the leagues. How are we going, guys?
Doing good, man. We are doing good.
It's a beautiful morning. It's a little cold, but beautiful morning.
Yeah, it's cold as ice out here, but it's good.
Now, we're pretty lucky here on the West Coast. It's pretty mild. It's just kind of drizzly, nothing crazy. So no scraping windows yet.
Yeah, I did that already today. Good times.
Yeah, I don't have it as bad as Mr. Yu, so I probably shouldn't complain. It's cold, but not terrible.
All right. Well, we did have a couple of topics that we weren't able to get to last week, and one of them is near and dear to Mr. Yu here, talking Danny Dimes and DeVito. You have a quarterback controversy starting to happen. Only because people have been mad at Danny Dimes anyway. So what's your feeling on that? Is DeVito your guy? Are you still in the market for a quarterback? You go back to Danny Dimes. What's your feeling for your team?
There's a lot of stuff going on here with this. This is a lot of components involved in this little so-called debate. I was never really a proponent of them drafting Jones at 6. I thought it was weird. There's some guys that I would have rather had there. And I had a list of those, and I don't know where the list is. There was definitely a list of at least 4 guys I'd rather have than him at that spot. But I thought when he came in, it seemed to me he could make all the throws that everybody else could. I didn't see anything weird. He was elusive in some ways and made plays with his feet. I thought it was a good thing. But when it comes to just, longevity and resiliency as far as taking hits, DeVito got him beat where that's concerned. I think DeVito also throws the deep ball better than he does. I think DeVito is a better thrower than he is, if you can believe that. Teams that he was playing against, they were quality teams, and Jones just didn't show up. I think it was 22, 37, and 1 in 60 games played. I think he was drafted because he reminded certain people of Eli. That's why he was drafted there. But in prime time, he's like 1 in 12. So it's not the same thing as Eli. It was a lot different. And I don't think he made the grade. As far as comparisons go, I think he's more like a Mr. 3 and out, where DeVito can extend plays. Like I said, I think DeVito's a better leader. He spreads the ball around a lot more. We talked about that a couple of days ago. You spread the ball around a lot more. You had a high success rate. And DeVito, even with the loss to New Orleans, he still has a better short sample size than Daniel Jones does in the same amount of time. He extends plays. He's better for the team. At the same time, I don't feel like the organization is really giving him a vote of confidence to be that guy. I think if anything happens, he can end up being on the team, but they're still looking for a quarterback in the draft. I really think that's what's going to happen. So I don't know what's going to happen with DJ and his ACL recovery, and then that big clause in the second year of his contract that we talked about many times before. That get the organization out, they can kind of get rid of him if they have to. That's probably likely to happen. So you probably see maybe perhaps DeVito grooming or being an understudy for the incumbent to come in through the draft. So that's my take. Which one is better? I think overall DeVito is better, but he's not good enough to be the QB of the future for us based on what we got going on right now. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I kind of agree with you. Like I was never a huge fan of Danny Dimes, and so not that that's any new information there, but but yeah, DeVito's been fun to watch. I don't know that he's necessarily the guy either, but it'll be interesting to see what they try and do with Jones's contract, how much of that they want to eat. If somebody's willing to trade for him, who knows? It's going to be.
Maybe thought about that one.
It's going to be some off-season gymnastics for them for sure.
That's a different wrinkle. I never even considered trade. That's a interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say what we've said a million times. I think about the situation is what the worst thing for the Giants was making the playoffs last year, and then they decided to give Daniel Jones, give him faith and give him a new contract. I'm thinking like you've had 3 or 4 years to evaluate him, and you have no faith in him, and almost like 1 year changed the whole perspective. If they had never gone with that, DeVito is still there. Like you guys, could have drafted one last year or this year or whatever, and already been starting this. Hey, DeVito could be there for a year, and you're moving the next guy. So you wouldn't even be in this situation. If they go and make a playoff, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy's definitely one of the best, and they give a huge contract for him. So.
It's still weird to me though, because I watched all this stuff happen in real time, and it was like, I was kind of shocked. I mean, the Vikings weren't.
Yeah.
People. I see articles now where the Vikings are being downplayed that they were not that good. Like, oh, they were good enough when they were beating other teams, but when they lost to us, they weren't that good. Just kind of see the hypocrisy there. But I didn't see enough of a reason to give that kind of contract. I didn't see it.
Oh, I agree.
Got to the playoffs. I mean, that's fine. It was something that nobody expected. We kind of came out of nowhere to make that happen. But that money was like, it felt like it was more like some kind of, I don't know if it was a panic move. I don't know what it was.
It was definitely that. It was definitely
1,000%.
Lose him to somebody else, which I'm like, okay.
No, it's because they had some success, and their draft order was such that they were going to be left without a quarterback if they didn't do something. What they should have done was they should have tagged him, signed Barkley, but tagged Jones.
I was down with that from the beginning, but I knew it was going to happen.
But so, I mean, the thing is they got him for what is largely looked at a little bit of a discount compared to the top quarterbacks.
Oh, right? Yeah. It's a discount.
And the thing is if they were to say have ran it back, they would have ended up spending a lot more to keep him in-house. So that's kind of the way they were weighing it out. But personally, just because everything that I had seen from Jones, like he had one good season, and most of that was because Barkley was Barkley, right? So I would have wanted to see more. I'd have been like, hey, go do this again. Let me see this a second time. Let's not have this be an aberration and I'm paying you a bunch of money for it. Let's see this on a consistent level. Whereas Barkley, you know who he is, right? Like he's going to be a stud. He's also going to get hurt, right? You're going to have him for 10 games of the year, and you hope that the 10 games that you have him for are the ones that count. Like that's what Barkley is. And so I would have signed Barkley and then tagged Jones. If he would have had the season he's having right now, you say bye and you move on, right? Or they do run it back and you're on the hook for more money, but you know what? You ran it back. So you guessed right.
It's just common sense, man.
Yeah. But it's across all sports though. Every sport does it. The guy in their contract year does great because basketball is famous for it. You spent 3 years doing nothing.
Yep.
You played great in that 4th year, and everybody's like, "Oh, maybe this is the guy we're getting." Gets a big contract, and now he's chilling again. And it never makes any sense. I mean, it's not logical, but every team keeps making the same mistake. It's crazy.
It's like it's like teaching your kid to drive. They do good, go through to a couple stoplights, stop on time, and that kind of stuff. You don't give them the keys to go a long distance because they did it good one time. You got to see some evidence. I don't understand the quick movement. I mean,
especially because they were taking their driving test in a Honda Accord, and you just gave them the keys to your Ferrari. Yeah. You're just, that's not quite the same. Like I don't mind.
The same. It's different. It's horsepower they can't handle.
Yeah, and for the first 9 months in the Honda Accord, they hit a couple potholes, they hit a couple curbs, and then the last 3 months they drove well, and you're like, oh, they can have my Ferrari because they drove good for 3 months.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
I know we're not the only team that does this. You guys probably have examples too, but it feels like we get guys that have high potential, but they injured so much of the season. It's like they don't really help us. I mean, Darren Waller is another example of that. I'm like, DeVito, if he was to start next year, he's gonna have some challenges because you got guys that can't even stay on the field. Yeah. I mean, Barkley can't do it for, like you said, 10 games, and you got Waller. It's like you lost two of probably your best weapons on the field.
Yeah,
it's like we keep doing that. I don't understand the pattern that we have with that.
The Seahawks are the worst proponent for that on running backs. Every running back we've had is crazy potential, can't stay on the field. And then the most glaring example of that would be Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
Dude was absolutely dynamic. When he's healthy, like he can bust off some huge runs.
Yeah, win.
Right? But the problem is he's going to be on the field 2 or 3 games a year. And
so okay. I didn't mean this was accidental. I was doing that before before it was a thing, because I joke around with Italian guys. That's not new. Do you guys really like Barkley to stay with the team and get an extension based on all you got that you're saying just now? So
no.
I want you guys' opinion. Would you guys let him go ahead and test free agency and do his thing somewhere else? Because sometimes now, here's something else to a new wrinkle. Every time somebody leaves our team, they go and thrive somewhere else. I don't know how it happens. I mean, we get some O-line guys, Feliciano over with the Niners, go somewhere else and they just thrive. It's a couple of O-line guys went somewhere else, thriving. Do you want Barkley to stay here, or do you think he should go somewhere else?
I think at this point you probably move on. You guys have enough. There's enough moving parts at this point. You guys you got some holes to fill, right? So I don't know that you necessarily need an expensive back, because now you are again looking for a quarterback, because I don't think either guy you have in house is your guy, right? And then there's just some other elements. So I don't know that you keep an expensive back. You could probably draft one. You can get running backs later in the draft that are solid. I think there's just other elements that you need to worry about at this point. It's not like you're a running back away, right? Like there's some stuff you need.
And I don't think Barkley's going to get the money he wants elsewhere anywhere. Somebody's going to try and sign him where they've got a good line and maybe another couple other backs, and they're saying, look, we're just trying to get, like you guys say, 8 or 9 games out of you possibly, and you're not going to be our lead back. So,
I think you guys kind of convinced me. I was thinking about something with this. I'm like, you're probably going to hear about it ad nauseum because we're kind of together so much. But I think I'm kind of just done.
Yeah. I think
it's time to go ahead and I guess really rebuild.
Yeah.
As opposed to kind of fix a couple of things, put up some new appliances and not really address the floor and that kind of stuff. I think it's time to really rebuild. I don't know that bringing Barkley, for me, the injury history was always an issue, even with Penn State.
Sure.
I'm like, is he going to be healthy? You know what I'm saying? I was concerned about, even as he mentioned about Wallace when he came up. I'm like, is he going to be healthy enough at the time? We talked about it on a couple of preseason shows that we did to get together. I'm ready just to rebuild. I'm talking about go ahead and just strip it down, man. I mean, why not? What do you got to lose? You bring in a new quarterback, more than likely 95, 97%. A new quarterback is coming in from somewhere.
Got to.
So you have a new quarterback coming in, and you got to have a high-priced running back who's maybe going to be there to help you transition. You got a tight end who might be there to be a security blanket for you. Maybe. Let's just go ahead and just strip it. I keep Hyatt, and I go ahead and let guys like Shep and Slayton go. Just go ahead and just do your own thing. Try to restore some last years of your career and everything. Just go ahead and just start fresh, man. All rookie. Let's just go ahead and just do it right, because it hasn't been done right for a while, and we've been piecing together with some bad parts, and it's just time, man. I'm there, man.
And I mean, this is a deep enough quarterback draft that you guys, where you're going to end up picking, like outside of your number 1 and maybe number 2 quarterback, everyone else is still going to be on the table.
Yep.
So, I mean, you'll be
How
able
about
to.
running back, though? How about running back?
Again, you can pick up a solid running back later in the draft.
I would think you fix the line first anyway, and then you get a solid one later, and that's going to make the difference. Because Barkley running behind a bad line isn't going to help him anyway, especially if he's injury prone or not, I should say. But
I mean, you don't have to be injury prone to get injured behind that line.
Yeah. And I'd like to formally apologize for my boy Evan Neal letting you guys down. We don't know what happened. We're sorry.
Nobody know what happened, huh?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I apologize though.
I don't know what he. That's another topic.
Yeah, but I think I agree with Bo there. You get a quarterback. You build up the line. I think and then running backs will come. You'll pick up a cheap one, you'll draft one late, you'll pick up a cheap one, and that's what you roll with for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at the Hawks, like they found some gems in the second round. There's been plenty of them that have been solid in the third and fourth rounds. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't stress too much on the running back, but getting your O-line and quarterback position right, that's huge.
I'm hearing this. I'm concerned about the running back. I'm hoping you guys ain't thinking about somebody who's 5'9", that's really fast. That's not – we already did that.
Right.
The reason why we had such success with Thunder and Lightning with Brandon Bradshaw is because these boys was hitting. They could run between the tackles. They were known for yak. I mean, Jacobs and Bradshaw were still in that regard. All these little flighty 5'9" guys. No offense to Eric Gray, but I'm talking about players like that. It doesn't do anything for us outside of special teams.
Right.
It doesn't help us beside maybe one play in the offense that the defense is not expecting. I mean, other than that, it's not. I want the guys to get back to being bruisers. I'm talking about on the line, on both sides of the line, in the trenches, running back that. Yeah, go ahead, make a business decision and not tackle me. It's in your best interest to not tackle me. Right. I want to get back to that because I think that's going to be the key to our success. That's how we play best. It's best for the system that we run.
If you can find an absolute unit like Derrick Henry when he was young, I mean, sure, yeah, everybody wants that.
Not the third and fourth round. Are you talking about?
No,
he ain't gonna be there.
But
where we gonna get him from?
That guy's not there anyway.
Yeah.
He got to be serious for him, man. You get what I'm saying, right? He got to be serious. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, the 5'7", 5'8" guy, we don't need that. That's not helping us.
But I mean, you can absolutely draft a guy like, Walker or Charbonnet, who, if you have a line in front of them that can open holes, they do damage. And those were late second rounders.
Yeah.
So, I
just feel like running back, I kind of agree with both sides. I just feel like running back is going to be one of the least of your worries.
You always agree with both.
Well, the thing is you can have an average running back, and if your line is good, they're going to put up yards.
Yeah.
But if your line is bad, like ours is at the moment, you can have dudes. But when you're getting hit behind the line, you're breaking tackles to break even. Like this game against the Eagles, right? Our offensive line wasn't doing anything. And at the end of the first quarter, we had one rushing yard. One. Like if there's not holes, I don't care how talented your back is, you're not going anywhere, right? So the O-line has to be that like paramount position you guys
I agree.
So, and then from there, you can get a third round running back if they're opening holes. If you have a 5'9" guy, right, and he's not taking on a 350-pound 6'5" Samoan dude, he's taking on a 220-pound linebacker. That is a much more realistic battle to win.
We got 250 the problem solving the O-line. I think we got two guys that are mainstays. I'm not really worried about them.
Yeah.
It's the other three guys that I'm concerned about.
All right, let's talk about this Bill Belichick thing. Obviously, it got leaked. He is going to be leaving New England, which is not a shock to anybody, really. But obviously, he still has an extra year on his contract there. There could be part of why it was leaked to try and get a trade partner to pick up Bill. And then, of course, with the Steelers kind of losing more games here down the stretch, there's more and more talk about Tomlin maybe moving on. If that were to be the case, it'd be very interesting because the first call that Tomlin would get would be from the Panthers, since the owner there used to be part of the ownership group for the Steelers, which means Bill might get a phone call from the Steelers. And that would be very interesting.
So everybody's going to do a little round robin trade for coaches.
That would be interesting.
That would be crazy.
And then, of course, Panthers friends that would go crazy. Like, literally, I'm talking about like straight jacket crazy. If Mike Tomlin was their coach. They'd be like, oh, my God, we're going to Super Bowl. I'm like, you are?
I mean, I'd pump the brakes on that, but they'd be better.
I'm just telling you what they would say.
Yeah. But it's hard to also be worse though too. So like every improvement would be good.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he could be very average, and the turnaround would look amazing.
Yeah.
And you find out with a Tomlin can coach a quarterback like that's a little different than what he's been used to. Just put it like
Right.
that.
For sure.
Right.
Well, and then of course, like we talked a little bit about earlier in the week. Obviously, the Chargers get rid of Staley, but they don't bring up Kellen Moore like we thought they were going to, right? Which is very weird. And they bring up Giff Smith, which is was their linebacker coach. So that's an interesting scenario. Yeah. But what it does open the door for is if Harbaugh decides to come to the league, that's a situation where you can bring your entire staff, because at that point, Kellen Moore was either didn't have the belief from the team or just didn't want the job. And in either scenario, you're probably not staying when a new head coach comes through.
So I did read about that. Sorry, I did read about that. What the Chargers podcast is guilty as charged, what they're doing. And the ESPN broadcast also mentioned was that neither coordinator was given the job so that they could concentrate on their side of the ball for the rest of the year. And that's like what the official word is coming out, is that's why they weren't a consideration. And then it doesn't have anything to do with the consideration like for head coach. So that's at least the official work. Yeah, I was watching and reading some stuff on that. I actually tried to do a little homework because you guys always seem much smarter than me. So I'm like, let me know something.
No. That's fantastic. That seems very odd.
Yeah.
but okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before in like 50 plus years of football.
I mean, yeah. And it's weird. And this was being reported by them and being reported by ESPN. So I was like, really? So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's almost something you have to say if you're the team, though. Like in your presser, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we strategically did this. It's not." This guy was like, "I don't want to be here."
Right.
Like you're not. That's not a great selling point if you had a coordinator that was trying to be elevated and they're just like, nah.
We don't think you can handle it for 3 games. So no.
The Harbaugh wrinkle is weird, no matter whether it's him or another coach, because they got a franchise quarterback already there. That part is something most coaches have to worry about.
Yeah,
not a problem here. They got who they wanted. Long term, that's good. They're gonna be like almost $35 million over the cap next year. That means guys like Keenan Allen, who I'm surprised is still there. I'm just being honest and being transparent. I'm surprised he's still there. Surprised Mike Williams is still there.
Yeah.
Loads of potential, ball droppers, and getting injured all the time. That's your legacy at this point in time.
Yeah.
Then you got Khalil Mack and Bosa. They're probably gonna be cutting all 4 of them guys, or either trading or
they just
all 4 of them guys. So the new coach got to give it a start from scratch. He's not gonna have all them guys there because they can't maintain it.
They will have Bosa though. They just signed him.
I honestly forgot Bosa was there. I guess because he's been injured and stuff. It's like Mac is the only name I'm hearing, and everyone else, like you said, with Williams, the receivers, like they're always hurt. It's like the potential for this team is great, but yeah, can any of y'all get on the field to actually play?
I don't think he's untouchable. That man.
If somebody gives you the right offer, everybody's on the table. I mean,
Bosa should keep his bags packed. Is all I'm saying. There's no guarantee you're going to be there.
There's never a
potential, but again, it's back to what they say: the best ability is availability, right?
Absolutely.
And you watch I watch the team. I don't know my infatuation with them. I watch this team every year. I don't know what it is. I ain't wearing their colors, but I ain't wearing powder blue. But I keep watching them. And every first or second game of the year, guess who goes out?
Yep.
The same person. And then after that, Keenan Allen. After that, it's Mike Williams. This is like it happens like constantly. I don't know if it's their trainer. I don't know what it is. So Bosa, I wouldn't be too comfortable out there in LA, man. Something could potentially change, especially with new leadership. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those tough to say, right? Only because it's a new contract. The other guys absolutely could be on their way out, but being as Bosa just signed, I would think he's probably fairly safe at least this coming year.
On the field,
but I mean, you're only as safe as you ever are in the NFL, right? Like everyone's expendable. So, that's part of the battle there. But I don't know, the movement around the league this offseason going to be really fun to watch, especially with the amount of coaching jobs that are opening up.
Really?
Because let's be honest, there's been a lot of bad football. And some of the ones that haven't opened yet are still mind-boggling. Some of the coaches that we thought would have been gone already are still in. Somehow Belichick beats them out the door. So, I mean, I don't know. There's just some weird stuff around the league.
Do you guys like the the prospect of coaching for the Commanders or the Raiders? Do you guys think that's a cool destination for either one?
I mean, as far as for the Commanders, there's potential there, right? You got a new ownership group. They're not afraid to spend money. They're interested in winning, right? Which is something that the Commanders really haven't had up front for a long time. So if you were going to take that job over, it's encouraging because essentially it's a clean slate, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have some draft picks. You're going to have cap room, and you can pretty much run the table on whatever it is you want to do. You can go get the quarterback you want. They're going to have a draft pick high enough to get one of the guys. I mean, they have pieces that if you want to build something, that's an enticing destination, other than the fact that if you look at the history of Washington, you're just like, man, but with the new ownership group, you kind of wipe some of that away. We don't have a track record of what it is they're going to do. Maybe they're going to be a dumpster fire too. We have no idea.
Right.
But
I would also think you jump into a division though with Philly and Dallas, and then you feel like you're behind the 8 ball before you even get started as well. Though you jump
for sure. Well, and that's a situation where you would want to be a seasoned coach that's had success before taking that job, because if you do flame out there, you have the opportunity to get another job. It's one of the reasons why I would be worried if Bieniemy got that job.
Yeah.
Because if he fails there, I don't know if he gets another bite at the apple. But if a guy like Harbaugh went there and he fails, nobody's going to hold that against him, right? Like, he'd get another coaching job. They'd just be like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's Washington, so that makes sense. But if it's your first coaching job, like, it could tank your coaching career.
Right.
Like, you may come back and be a coordinator or whatever, but, I mean, that could seriously derail your ability to, be a head coach in the league. It's similar to Frank Reich, right? Like, I think he went into 2 bad situations, but unfortunately, those are the situations that are on his resume. Is he going to get another head coaching job? If he does, it's going to be a while, right? Yeah. I mean, you get fired in back-to-back seasons on 2 horrendous teams, you're not going to get another bite anytime soon, if at all. And do I think those were ideal situations to come into? No. But at the end of the day, you signed that contract and went in there and failed. Right. So that Washington job, I think, really needs a seasoned coach that's had success for no other reason than it gives you the best opportunity to not have it ruin your career if it doesn't work.
Wow. So 3 years from now, I'll still be able to get something else. So I'll take it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, there's those jobs. There's those jobs.
No, I agree with that part. Yeah. No, I understand. It's funny, but yeah, that's how the way the coaching carousel works. I think guys like Bieniemy, though, like, I think he absolutely would take it because he's been rebuffed so many times. But I don't know. Washington was like they were almost in the middle of a rebuild and then kind of pumped the brakes a little. Is Howell the guy? So it still seems like a lot of questions to come in. So it's like, what level of success are you looking for to say that this was a success, in the first 2 or 3 years? Do you have to unseat one of those 2 in Philly and Dallas in the first couple of years for it to be considered a success and get longer time? Or in 3 years, are we saying, all right, you're still third in division, we're pulling the plug? I mean, if that's the case, then no one's going to want that job. Right. Like, if you have to come in immediately with the roster they have, with what they have available to them, you're not unseating either one of those in the next 2 years. So if your idea is that you're going to be winning your division in the next couple of years, I would stay away from that job. If your goal is to be competitive and fighting for a wild card spot in 2 to 3 years, then that's an enticing job. Right? Because you don't necessarily have to unseat them to get into the playoffs. I mean, especially with the expanded playoffs, you got
a seventh team now. So I mean, there's paths that you can send. I mean, you can technically send an entire division, right? So I think if they manage expectations, which is not something the NFL does, but say now they're a unicorn and they do that, then sure, you take that job. But if the thought is you're going to come in and beat up on the Eagles and the Cowboys in the first couple of years, yeah, you're out of your mind. You don't have anyone on that roster that's probably still going to be there. And the couple of guys that should still be there, you traded.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, well, they're going to have some money. I think the Commanders have all 9 of their picks. The Raiders, however, they're in a bit of a different situation.
Yeah.
They got a few money issues they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
They got probably 5 really big contracts. 5 pretty big contracts that I don't know how you maintain that going to next year with the cap liabilities that these guys got. I think it's like 211 mil, something like that. It's a lot going on. So I don't know. I've heard names like Harbaugh and some other ones potentially going to the Raiders. I'm like, so that's why I asked you guys, is that a good thing? Do you want to be there? I mean, they got what Belichick called the Taj Mahal of NFL stadiums. Great. I mean, but there's some other stuff going on that you got to address. I don't know.
You could lose in style.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're shooting for. You want a really nice stadium, or do you want to have some championships and return to former glory?
I like rings.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on out there. I don't
know.
Rings.
You mean winning?
That's right.
The guy that they had, O'Connell. I don't know if I see him as the guy for the future. So that means you got to address that again, because Jimmy G is like he's just taking up space.
Yep.
Oh, he's gone after the year anyway.
I think the way his contract was set up, they couldn't spread the money out. So he's like kind of a albatross, so to speak, being there.
Yeah,
so
but it's why he's not touching the field, because their hope is that someone will trade for him. They can get off some of his contract.
Who's gonna do that?
At the end of the day, the Raiders are kind of an interesting fit. It was kind of interesting though that Howie Long came out at the end of last week and said that Belichick should absolutely not be an option for the Raiders because they've already seen the Belichick tree in McDaniels, and it didn't work out particularly well. He's like, so let's not do that again. And I tend to agree with him. I don't think that's a great fit anyway. So, but again, he's not wrong, right? I mean, the Patriot way wasn't working there. I don't think bringing the head of the Patriot way is going to make it better.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he's like, if I feel like I'm a coach away from winning, I could see him more Chargers than Raiders for sure. But
for sure,
I don't see him fixing the Raiders situation at all. I just feel defense will probably take maybe another step up because they've been decent this year, and then the offense will still flounder, and we'll be talking about the same thing all over again.
No, we don't want that.
No.
I don't like McDaniels, so it's like it doesn't got nothing to do with Belichick and the Patriot way. I don't think McDaniels is good at this. I ain't blaming Bill Belichick. I think he can go there and do a better job under the right circumstances. One thing he does that nobody else does as well, I think, is how he drafts. He drafts very well. McDaniels doesn't have that kind of credibility with me. So to me, it's different.
Well, but he also wasn't the GM there.
So even less experienced than to be a head coach then. Even less to the table then.
That's a different job though. Like as a head coach, you're gonna you have to do what you can with the talent that you get. But the GM is, who brings that talent in. Obviously there's conversations back and forth of who people want, but at the end of the day, the GM pulls the trigger on it. So if you end up with some guys that you don't want as a coach, that's not really on the coach. I mean,
some coaches do both. Some head coaches do both jobs.
And
so
largely
it's different.
Largely, it hasn't worked.
Never did that.
Yeah, for the most part, it hasn't worked great. And really, even for Belichick, it's only worked in position groups, right? Like they've never drafted, receivers or anything that have been good.
Does he hate receivers? Like, can anybody ever actually ask that question?
I mean, he must. But the things that he drafts well is the line.
Right.
right? Like that's where he has the most success drafting, which is great because it's such an important and weirdly overlooked position group. But that's where his success has really been. And then he was lucky enough to have Brady, who, you know, was able to do what he did. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Like I don't love Belichick as a GM either. Outside of drafting,
Nobody does.
well, but so the thing is, you think
But McDaniels is not the same. It's not apples and oranges. Well, it is apples and oranges, not apples and apples.
well, no, but it's not like he was going to have that option, and Bill's not going to have the option next time either. He's not going to be the GM somewhere else.
Right.
Like they're going to be like, you're the coach.
Yeah. And I know, I guess I see why some of these guys want that kind of power, but I would want it separate. You know, I feel like the coach needs to concentrate on coaching. A good rapport with the GM is needed, but you need somebody who's like actually looking at players all the time, where the coach is looking at what I've got on the field. So
Exactly.
I don't know, just you don't see that many great examples of guys who do both really well, you know. And I also feel like some coaches get, you know, a little emotional attachments to certain players, and all of a sudden you see a guy on the team who you're like, why is this guy still here? Yeah. Oh, it's because the coach was also GM, and then they kept him around because they liked him and they liked their attitude. He was just terrible in the field. Sorry. So I don't know why stuff like that happens. But.
So speaking of that, where do you think Tony goes this next year?
Oh my goodness, dude! I thought a long time about this, and I was like, he's not going to be out of the league, you know, because what is like Josh Gordon stuck around forever, even though he's suspended every other year. Absolutely. So. Yep. I was like, I mean, you got to sign him as like your fourth receiver, right? Or special teams player or something like that. That's low money, low risk. But I was like, what team is? You don't want them to go like the Panthers and say, hey, you're going to be our number two. No, because you're going to ruin Bryce Young even further, right? So that's not a situation. So, but do you take him on an established team? Well, that's what he kind of had, but, you know, they're expecting to. I just don't. It just looks. See, you shaking your head. It looks bad every which way.
You know why I'm shaking my. You know why I'm shaking my head though. I mean, think about it now.
Yeah,
you were on a team where they drafted you 20?
Yeah,
in the first round. So you were a first round pick.
Yep.
You had all the room to be the number one guy. They thought. Yep. I don't know how they thought that. I didn't see that with my eyes. My eyes in 2020, but they're pretty darn good, and I didn't see that. But you guys saw that. Draft him in the first round over Najee Harris, Rashad Bateman, Gregory Rousseau, Christian Darrisaw, and Kwity Paye. You thought he was better than all of those guys for your team. And you drafted him, and he was supposed to be the number one guy, and he didn't run routes well. He didn't catch passes well. He didn't do anything well. So he was, then on top of that, he was injured, and then running back on social media on the sidelines while the game is going on, he's tweeting. Okay.
Yep.
So now he goes to the Super Bowl champions, which is like, oh wow, what a godsend. Goes over there, and you theoretically are part of a team that won a championship, so you got a ring too. So you probably think you're hot stuff. Look what you're doing out here this year, looking like trash.
Oh yeah,
can't do nothing right. I mean, he go find another job. I don't know what he's gonna be doing. I was thinking like Herb said, special teams, wide receiver 3 or 4. You ain't doing no better than that, because everybody got a book on you now. Especially they see what you've been doing.
And to your point, he doesn't necessarily run the cleanest route, right? So he's not even like a good slot option,
right?
Because he doesn't run that nice, crisp, create separation type of route. And even when he does run one of those routes, it ends up like this last weekend where it hits him square in the hands. He bobbles it, and then literally just like handed it to the other team. Like he's just like,
It's brutal to watch. It's brutal.
It was entertaining for sure. But I agree with you though. I don't think he's out of the league, but I think he finds his way off of KC.
Yeah.
I hope his life doesn't become what we've been seeing with players that have potential, but the off-field stuff, the other stuff is what kind of derailed their career. Yeah. I don't want to speak it over nobody, but he feels like he's inching his way into that kind of territory.
Yeah, it's for him, it's the on-field stuff ending his career.
It starts with declining play, and then other stuff starts adding in. And
has it declined though?
He's a footnote.
That's the problem. There was no decline. It was all kind of just flatlined. From the beginning. Like every memory you have of Tony is a bad one.
Yeah,
it can't get worse. I disagree. It can't be worse.
I just don't know that. Well, I just don't think it ever got better. So either. So it's like
one of his rare catches is from Kelsey, and he was offsides, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. So that's the best memory we have of him. And I think the
I
whole draft thing.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And I think the draft thing was, I mean, Florida had a great offense that year, but you look at what happened. You know, Kyle Pitts gets drafted 4th that year. So were you just a byproduct of, okay, everybody's trying to watch this unicorn we have a tight end, and you're just kind of out there scoring? I mean, it was just way different for him in college. And then he gets there, and it's like, oh, here are all the other stuff you weren't doing. So, yeah, it's got to be 3rd or 4th wide receiver on a team. It's got to be a cheap option. And like, look, we're going to give you a chance to revive your career, but we're also not going to put you in a position to hurt us very much. You know, just run the route over here and take this one defender out the way, and that's really
all that happened with the Giants was taking the Raiders playbook on how to draft wide receiver. That's all they were doing. That's what happened.
Yeah.
They did what the Raiders been doing for years, and it hasn't been working. The Giants, you know
mean
what?
Just draft the fast guy and hope it works. Yeah, just draft the fast guy and hope it works out.
That's all that happened.
Pretty much.
You're gonna do it, Florida. That's all this was. That's all it was.
Yeah, I agree with you. No,
and it failed epically.
All right, let's chat a little bit about these playoffs. And we got 4 teams that are clinched. You got the Ravens, the Niners, Cowboys, and the Eagles. So they all have a spot. Obviously, the Niners won their division. Niners, by all intents and purposes, they're going to get that number 1 spot. Basically, they have to win 2 of the next 3 games, and they're going to lock up that spot. So I don't really foresee that being a problem. But so those are the ones that are already locked in. But these are the ones that are in the hunt. Now, this includes some division leaders, but they haven't won their division yet. So these are, interesting in the way that you have the Vikings in there. You got the Rams in there. The Colts popping in, right? So, I mean, there's these are guys, if it were to end today, would be in the playoffs. I don't think this is how it ends, but interesting to see. It shows you how much parity is in the league.
Yeah.
But this is the group that is interesting, is on the bubble. And it's crazy that the South is still really in the mix. And then, of course, Green Bay loses. They go from the 7th seed to 11th. That almost ends their shot. But, then there's some teams that aren't mathematically out, right? You got the Chargers, the Bears, Raiders, Giants. I mean, technically, mathematically, they're still in. They need all the help in the world. But which one of these bubble teams you think end up sneaking in there?
Man, I feel like the Texans and Bills have pretty good shots. It's interesting with the Texans because we're putting them at the 8th spot, but they're tied, like the whole division, I think, except for the Titans, is at the same record. So it's really weird. Jags have against the tiebreakers over them. They're like 4-1 in the division with only 1 game left in the division. So they have the best shot, but there's like a nice little glut there, or a log jam, as Raj and I would like to say on our show, in that one. So I like the Texans shots, and the Bills, man, their last 3 games, except for the Miami game, are not what are they, Chargers and Patriots, I think, before they play the Miami. So you got to think they're catching fire at the right time. So I feel like those 2 teams possibly find a way to sneak in on that side. And I know this isn't exactly what you're asking here, but I think it's hilarious that whoever is in the NFC South looks like they'll be hosting either the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Yeah, they can get boat raced.
Yes. And that's, like, oh, great, we won. We got a home playoff game. Oh,
like you hang your division banner and you call it a year. You're just like, all right, we did a thing. Let's go to Mexico. Here we go. Like,
we won the in-season tournament, guys. We're good.
Exactly. My ties on the beach. Here it comes.
I was thinking it. I didn't say it though. So.
Hey, I read your mind. I'll take the hit on this one.
So
here comes the obligatory response in 5. 4.
I think the Saints still end up winning that division. They seem like they're starting to figure it out. I think they end up pulling that off. But how close this bubble group is actually what's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
When you look at this year overall, I mean, at this point in the year, a lot of times over half of the playoffs are already locked in.
Right.
So it's maybe, I don't know if it necessarily is parity. It could just be a testament to the fact that half the league has backups at this point at quarterback. Yep. So maybe rather than parity, it's just a lot of bad football this year.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of teams that I think kind of with Herb on the Texans and the Bills. I kind of just like how they've been playing as of late. We can look at their schedule and kind of pick it apart, but I like what they've been doing. Despite that, they've beaten teams that probably they shouldn't have beaten and lost a team they shouldn't have lost to. So we just can't really tell where they're at with that. So that's why Texans and Bills are kind of an easier pick for me. The Steelers are a weird one to me because I feel like even we talked about Mike Tomlin and think that could potentially happen. I kind of feel like they have a tougher slate coming up. I don't like they're playing the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Ravens. I think it is.
Yeah, Bengals, Seahawks, Ravens. Yep.
Yeah. I don't like them to win any of those games.
No.
Based on what I've been seeing, whether Pickett was in there or not, I think I feel the same way about it. I don't like how that looks. I don't know where the Broncos are, but
they got Mason Rudolph starting this week. So I mean that
changes nothing.
I didn't even know he was still in the league, to be honest.
That changes nothing for me.
That's actually my point. Is they definitely lose this next game.
Yeah.
So, and I think that essentially eliminates them anyway. Yeah. One more loss, I think, pretty much takes them out.
Yeah. And somebody said they went from 90% to make the playoffs to 4% in a matter of weeks. So
I think it's because they've lost their last 3 in a row, if I remember right. So, I mean, they're even though they're sitting at 10. They won't be they're out of it. Ultimately, I think the Broncos are probably going to be out. The Bills, to your point, absolutely catching fire at the right time. Their offense is starting to click. The last 4 games in a row, they've scored an average of a little over 30 points. That's going to win you a lot of games, right? Yeah. So they have real shot.
I wouldn't count the Broncos out, not based on who they're playing next. I think they can win all 3 of those games.
So they're winnable games. But, it really comes down to if their defense can create turnovers. Because the offense hasn't shown the ability to drive the field. Yeah. And it's certainly not consistently through a game. So unless they're getting the ball in plus territory, they've lost all season. Anytime
they've been playing pretty good lately, though.
Well, the defense has. The offense, I understand that Russell's completion numbers and everything look great. But when you look at the yardage totals, it's showing you he's getting the ball in plus territory. Well, most quarterbacks can score if you're getting it at midfield all the time. Because some of his, 2-3 touchdown games, he still only has 180 yards, 220 yards. When you're looking at a game where you had all of your normal possessions, and then you added 2 or 3 turnovers, right? So now all of a sudden you're plus 3 possessions, and you still are close to 200 yards. That's not exactly like you're, lighting up the scoreboard here. He's doing just enough to win with positive turnovers. When you've seen the turnover battle be even, they pretty much lost that game all year. So it really comes down to how effective the defense is.
Yeah.
The problem as you get to this time of year, now, again, he's going to have, there's going to be some games in there that they're probably the better team. So I'm not saying they're going to get skunked or anything. I just think that there are better teams ahead of them, and they're a little bit too far behind to be able to get into the playoffs from here.
That makes sense. And the Seahawks look good, too. I mean, they got at Tennessee.
Yep.
At home versus Pittsburgh, and then I think they're going to be on the road at Arizona.
Yeah. So
that's yeah.
That one actually favors the Hawks a lot because the Rams still have to face Baltimore.
Yeah.
And although the Rams have the tiebreaker, if they drop that and the Hawks
didn't the Rams already play Baltimore?
Oh, is that wrong? I thought
because that was that didn't they go to overtime or whatever with the Rams in Baltimore?
Maybe I got their schedule mixed up a little bit. Let me double check what their
Yeah, wasn't that the kick return game in overtime?
I know they still have a tough game coming up.
Yeah, 49ers. Saints, Giants, 49ers.
Oh, that's right. They got the Niners. That's right. So I think they can beat the Saints, then the Giants. The Niners, I think they get crushed.
Who's going to beat us again? I'm sorry. Who's going to beat us again?
I didn't say it. I'm muting my mic.
Who's going to demolish us?
The Rams beat us twice. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they've actually been playing really good football. They're just not going to square up great against the Niners. And if the Hawks can win out,
well, look at the time. I gotta go.
And the Rams drop that game, they would be.
Included in this. I mean, we're on the graphic, but I just didn't think that we'd be actually included in the conversation because we're the Giants. We had a 1% chance of making a playoff, so I didn't think anybody would care to mention us. But apparently, we're in the conversation again. Huh?
Hey, you get to play spoiler now. Like you get to wreck people's dreams. That's what you get to do. If you can't make it, you make sure other people can't. Right? The Lions did that last year. Like they didn't have anything to play for.
Right.
But what
great.
they did do is say, "Hey, you know what, Green Bay, you're not going either."
Yeah, I love that game. That was a fun game to watch.
It was a great game. It was a great game. I mean, as a Hawks fan, I appreciated it too because if Green Bay won, we were in, and the Hawks were out. So I mean, we got to go to the playoffs because the Lions didn't give up. But it was also just a fun game to watch. Yeah. So I'll give them that.
We're playing spoiler.
But yeah, I mean, there is still a clear path for my Seahawks to get in. They do need help, but I think based on the schedule, the Niners could be the one that provides that help, provided everybody starts.
Right.
They may have everything sewn up and rest some guys.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then all of a sudden that game becomes very different.
Which seems like they will be at that point. I don't know. I'm not very confident, I guess, in Dallas or Philly at this point.
Well, and
what we've seen recently,
the Niners also have the tiebreak on both of them. So if they win the next 2 weeks, right? Since they finish against LA, if they win the next 2 weeks, they could lose the last game and it wouldn't matter.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
So that's one where I don't think it'll matter there. It'll be if they are like, if they win the next two, they're number one seed anyway. But then do you want your guys to have 2 weeks off, or do you play everybody that final game because you don't want 2 weeks of rust coming in? Like if I was a coach, I would still start everybody. If I'm going to get the bye week, I'm going to start everybody in that final game because 2 weeks off, and you're coming off a team that potentially, comes through the wild card spot on a roll. You're a little bit flat coming into a game. I've never liked the resting players. Like run with the guys you got. I don't know. That's just me though. I've never been a fan of it. It's also why I don't love what they do in preseason. Right.
Yeah.
It's especially now, like nobody plays in the preseason hardly at all. And then they're like, oh, how come week one, all our guys are kind of flat and aren't very good? It's like, well, because they didn't play. Like you get better by playing. Like that's how that works.
Right.
They did better this year, though. They did a lot better. This was probably the first time that we've seen guys in the third and fourth game actually playing the majority of the game. I thought that was great. Aaron Rodgers played in the last game, and
there were a couple of games that played, but you could tell that the number ones weren't getting many reps because offensive line play was horrendous for the first 3 games across the league. Like it was bad because, I mean, at the end of the day, the positions that really matter in preseason for starters so that you can get into the regular season clicking is your offensive line and your at speed reps between your quarterback and your receivers. Those are the ones that are the most important. Everyone else can kind of make it up on the fly a little bit, but those 2 position groups really need the live reps because you can't simulate that in practice, and you're not allowed to hit anybody in practice anymore either. So it's not quite the same. You need the game time reps. So I wish we could see a little bit more of the starters the way we used to,
right?
But I don't think we will. But it would create a better product week one.
Not possible.
Well, I mean, they negotiated one less game to get the extra game at the end of the year for preseason. Yep. So now you even have less time to kind of work them in, and so now they're just skipping more of those games. So yeah, I mean, I see.
Well, you're not allowed to hit in practice or OTAs really anymore either. Yeah. Like there's a lot of real reps that they don't get. Yeah. That you see them working those bugs out week one. Yeah. And I don't love that. I don't want to see sloppy football for the first couple weeks of the game or of the season. Like I don't love that look. Yeah. I mean, you're a professional sports league, right? You have OTAs, you have preseason, like you have these things so that when you get to the regular season, we're not watching college football.
Yeah. And to Mr. Yu's point earlier this year, he pointed out that it seemed a lot more fights. I think all this stuff goes to it. Why you saw so much more of those, or when you saw so much more like mixed practices, guys have a lot of aggression and they're not doing anything with it until they get another team to hit. And so I think that's why something you mentioned earlier this year, it came true a lot more. Guys just wanted to hit somebody. So yeah, we're gonna fight here because I'm not playing preseason. I'm not hitting in practice. I'm hitting the first guy that comes up. I don't care who he is. So,
right. Hitting guys with the water cooler.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are you kidding? That when I played I would always be on kickoff coverage. Always. Because that's how I got ready for a game. Is I wanted to go down. I didn't care who I had to hit. I was a gunner. I was going to go put my helmet on somebody. That's how I got ready for a game. Until I made that hit, I had nervous energy. I'm like, all right, here we go. Like I'm getting amped up to go. And then they kick off. You go down and smack somebody and you're like, okay, here we go. Like that was me. I don't think I'm that much different than any other football player, right? Like you want that contact. You want that hit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe receivers don't, but the rest of us do.
No. As somebody who played receiver for just a minute, I wanted no contact. I was like,
no, and it's why I made the switch from receiver to corner. Is I wanted to go hit somebody. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our show. That hour goes quick every time. Be sure to let everybody know where they can find you guys.
All right. But anywhere where you listen to your audio podcasts, we are on every platform. Our shows, they call Mista Yu the podcast, Mondays at 9 a.m. EST with these same gentlemen here. And one handsome fella who couldn't join us today because he's doing double duty. But we're doing every Monday. And of course, we're all over YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook as well on multiple shows. So we're kind of bouncing around and making some new friends. And you can find us they call me Mista Yu on it. Pretty much every platform except Snapchat and TikTok. I haven't ventured into those realms yet. I can't do it, but everywhere else.
Me neither, man. Me neither. So. And for me, it's you see the Twitter handle there at Raj Herb, the Herb Raj Podcast. You can search us on YouTube and find us, and then Spotify, Apple Music, all the places, and Amazon. All the places where you find podcasts, you can find us. Well, then, like you said, Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings with these fine gentlemen, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central.
Yep,
we love you, Raj.
And of course, my channel at Football-Talk. And of course, you see me with these guys every Monday morning. And of course, if you are watching here on Roku, be sure to stay tuned in the next hour for Spitballing. And of course, you can find me tomorrow morning for our Pick'em show right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.